y'all have all become familiar with Michael Vick and the dog thing and all that. And, you know, I think all of us here would not want to have any cruelty to dogs and all that, you know.
I have 2 dogs, and, I mean, the thought of what this guy was doing, it just makes me sick to my stomach.
It's sickening, and I think we'd all, you know, defend the dog that if we saw it happening and all of that, but, you know, let's always remember it's a dog, too, but it's not a human baby. And this guy, Senator Robert Byrd, West Virginia, came out and said this, y'all will love this. He told his colleagues that he is, quote, confident that the hottest places in hell are reserved for the souls of sick and brutal people who hold God's creatures in such brutal and cruel contempt. Now, if I'd have heard that without knowing anything about it or what was said from this guy, I would think, oh, that's somebody talking about unborn babies or something. Who's more defenseless than that? He's talking about Michael Vick and talking about the cruelty to animals and the dogs.
He's a rabid, hardcore pro-abort. Yeah. The hypocrisy of these people is unlimited.
Right. There was a Robert Byrd linked to the KKK at one point.
He was a Klansman.
Oh,
of course,
really?
If you're a liberal Democrat, you get a pass on being a Klansman.
Yeah.
If he were a conservative Republican, they would have lynched him years ago, politically lynched him. Right.
That's right. And J.C. Watts, we all know and love J.C. Watts, he came out and commented that something about this is out of whack. In his response, he wrote that people that get more worked up over admittedly brutal and inhumane treatment of soulless dogs than the brutal procedure known as partial birth abortion, that something's out of whack. And not only partial birth abortion, but any abortion is brutal from day 1 through 9 months.
You know something that's interesting here? I saw, or heard a commentator on one of the news stations one day saying that if the NFL doesn't permanently suspend this guy, that the NFL is at fault because he does not have the moral authority to go out and be a role model and lead an NFL football team. And I'm thinking, if he was involved with abortion, they wouldn't be saying that.
Right.
And I was thinking back, and this reinforced something I remember. I think we talked about it here back in the Clinton administration when he got in all the grief that he got into over the Monica Lewinsky thing and everything. We were saying he's not morally qualified to be president, and all these people were saying that that's irrelevant. That's his private life and that's his private. They're not saying that now about Michael Vick. And I remember about the same time Bill Clinton was in trouble, Michael Irvin from the Dallas Cowboys was in trouble over hanging out with hookers and doing drugs and everything, and people saying he wasn't morally qualified to be a professional football player. We hold our professional football players to a higher standard than we hold our presidents. You think about it.
And these guys beat each other up on the field.
And we worship dogs and trees, and we murder.
Butcher children.
If Michael Vick was an abortionist, he'd be a golden boy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It'd be okay that he's doing that to
but
babies.
Johnny, what's wrong with this?
And not only that, I noticed last night that I was watching TV, and of course you know what they put on, don't you? They did a whole segment on showing some very graphic pictures of what happened to dogs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They showed the dog fights. They showed the dogs beating. They showed the guy taking the dog out and shooting him somewhere, and all of this. Well, if TV can go in and say, be careful, these pictures are going to be graphic, and they'll do this for a dog.
Yeah.
Right.
But not for human beings.
You could, whoever the producer of the show you're talking about, because I've seen that same thing, whoever the producer is, that if you set them down in a room and said, why won't you show an abortion on television? Oh, that's too graphic. We can't show that, and it's too controversial, and there are people who feel different ways. Well, there are people who feel that dogfighting's okay.
Yes, yes.
So why aren't you worried about offending them by showing these graphic pictures of dogfighting?
Pro-choice in dogfighting?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
You know, here's what the Bible says, though, that a righteous man cares for the needs of his animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. And so this Senator Byrd and other pro-abortion people, on one hand, they want to protect dogs, which is right. We should.
Absolutely.
But the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel, i.e., partial birth abortion, or any form of abortion for that matter, that dismembers a baby's life.